everything. You don't have to worry about what your actual user role is. Once you have the software set up and ready to go, the license will control the features available here. So for instance, I'm in Studio 11 now, and I have a developer license assigned to me, so I can actually see all the different modules here, and I could start creating new scripts for transaction or query or new direct scripts. If I had only a transaction license, I would only see this one single button here. So it's the application is dynamic, and the features available here change depending on what license has been assigned to you. So the basic premise, the three-step process of building scripts is still identical to earlier versions. You first start a recording, you go through a sample SAP scenario, record a transaction, then use the mapper to build an Excel template. So all that still remains, that's still the same. It's just the user interface has changed quite a bit, making it, I think, easier to use. It has a lot of sort of small quality of life improvements, as well as a handful of other new useful features. So I will go ahead and start a new transaction recording. I'll just do some simple small change in SAP, so just so we can see that we go through the whole recording process here. So I'll do something with MM0 to go there and change a couple of values, and that's it for the recording. But yeah, like I said, the main principle is still the same. You log into SAP. I was already logged into the Winshuttle test system here, so, and then I provide the transaction code that I want to record. As far as recording modes go, the latest Winshuttle function module is more intelligent, and quite often it will automatically select the correct recording mode for you. So you can just stick to the default standard mode here. But if you want to create scripts in other modes, the options are still available here to you. Other than that, you can just go ahead then and click Start Recording. For the most part, like I said, the recording process will be identical to the earlier version. The main difference here maybe being that you get these screens here showing you what's going on actually. So you have better feedback. Previously, you weren't, with the 10.x version, you weren't always sure what's happening. It just takes a while before, in this case, it's connecting to SAP, checking your authorizations and logging you in. And that's previously there was like no proper visual representation of that on your screen. So this is now better. You can actually see what's happening, especially in our case, because we are using the Winshuttle SAP system, which is like on the other side of the globe. So we get significant delays here. So it's nice to see that it's actually working, something's happening. So now we are in the recording phase, and I'll just go ahead and go into, pick up a material here, change a couple of values, and that will be basically my sample script for, I'll just do it, for instance. Doesn't really matter, we are just mainly looking at the feature in, and not actual process itself. So the script, I used a couple of weight values for a material, then I'm backing out and saving, and then the display here will change to indicate that it's now, the recording is complete, it's now compiling the scripts, and then we'll be back in Winshuttle once this is complete. So again, now here you see that it's actually, Winshuttle is doing actively something, it's compiling and finishing up the recording. So it's a nice to actually see this here as well. And also in case you actually want to cancel out, you can there's an option here to cancel, discard the recording, so you can either do this at the end or even in the beginning if you realize that you typed in the incorrect transaction code, and you can just quickly cancel the process and abort it and restart again. So that's, I think, a new feature as well. All right, I think we are almost done, and should be in the mapper screen in a second. All right, there we go. Like the whole interface with Studio 11 has changed quite a bit, including the mapping view. So it might be, if you're used to using version 10, it might be a little daunting at first because everything looks a little bit different, but it just takes a little bit of time to find out where all the buttons are in the new version, but all the same features are still here. So one I think big improvement here in the mapper is that the spreadsheet here we have here has more features. It's more like a proper Excel style spreadsheet. So for instance, when we start mapping fields to the template to build an Excel template for our script, it's more responsive, especially if you have to modify scripts later on. If you have worked with version 10, if you had a script and a template that you had worked on earlier, it was kind of annoying to come back and modify your template because the fields and the headers did not automatically update once you come back to modify an existing script. But here you can just, if you remap the fields, you can see that it changes here in real time, making it easier to switch fields around and whatever you need to do. For instance, if I want to move a column to another location here, there's also the option, instead of dragging and dropping, you can configure here that I want to place it in front of before column B, and it actually shows you that this will be moved between columns A and B, and the other columns will be pushed to the right. So it makes it easier to manage this, and all the changes are then automatically shown here, updated in real time. You can also like modify the headers here, things like that. You can even enter values, which is important once we get to the next steps when we start adding test data. So it's still not still a full like Microsoft Excel that we have here, but it's still more robust and more full-featured as a spreadsheet manager than the one in the previous version. So it makes it a little bit easier and more convenient to manage the template here. Still, for more complex stuff, I still recommend that you do them then later on, once everything is finished, then later on do them in Excel, because Excel still has features available there that are not here. You can do more customization there, adding formulas, modifying fonts and colors if you want to do something like that. So this is the basic view. Then we still have the expert view here behind another tab here. I don't know how much you guys have been working with the expert view or with loops and conditions. Also, what sections you have visible here can be customized. So in case the screen is a little bit too busy for you, you could hide the right-hand side properties panel and even the template on the bottom, and just see, for instance, the expert view here to make it easier to figure out what or do what you are hoping to accomplish here. So that's all customizable. So as for the rules and loops and such, those are also been improved in this version. So, well, don't really have a good example in this template, but or in this script, but I'll just pick something here. So for instance, if you want to add a loop around a certain screen here, you select the screen and then you can add the loop here. And if you've been working with this before, you see that loop creation dialog is more detailed. It shows you an actual, like a visual example of what the loop template will look like. It gives you instructions how to really do this. If you switch to a multi-sheet loop, it shows you different instructions here. So the instructions are more detailed here, which hopefully then make it easier to create and manage these loops. And once you, for instance, if you change the looped lines here, you can see that the selection changes there on the background to highlight what rows will be looped. So it's more visual, hopefully making it a little bit easier to manage loops, for instance. Same goes for other conditions as well, which still, if you are not familiar working with conditions, it can be a little bit complicated at first. And I think it comes down to the fact that you first have to figure out what the logic is, how you want the rule to work, then before you start really configuring rules in Studio 11. But still, the interface is much cleaner here, and you have more options. You can select columns and a longer list of available operators here, so you can check that if your value is then less than or equal to something, then this rule will be triggered. So there's a longer list of conditions you can create, and you can add multiple columns here, multiple conditions here, remove them and change how they behave. So it's a little bit easier to work with rules as well. I think the interface is much cleaner and user-friendly than in the 10.x version. So then a couple of new features that we have here. We have, for instance, a new feature in Studio 11 which requires the new Winshuttle function module is well, first of all, we have an improved file attachment function. So if you want to, well, we don't really have anything in this MM02, but basically if we wanted to add a file attachment upload to a script, we can simply add it here and say that we want to use the business document service to attach a file, upload a file to this transaction. It's actually that's not supported in this script, but it's for other places. For instance, if you are doing something with posting financial documents and you want to also upload an attachment there, upload an attachment file to SAP, then you can use that. It makes it quicker to add attachments without needing to build another script just to upload attachments. Same with long texts. If you have been working previously with any transaction that involved long texts in any form, you probably know that it's can be a bit of a pain, because first of all, it requires that you build the script in using a very specific recording mode. Sometimes you have to go to the line editor and edit the text one line at a time. Now this is a completely new feature here, which allows us to basically add long texts related to whatever transaction we recorded. So since we did an MM02, and if you were following the recording, we didn't actually go into any view that had any long texts, but still we have these long texts available. So if I wanted to add something like sales texts or basic data texts to this script, I could add them here, and then it will add actually new towards the end of the script. It will add new fields for uploading long texts, which we could then map to our script. So it's a lot easier to work with long text, and you no longer really need to worry about what is the correct recording mode and am I doing this correctly, because even with the correct recording mode earlier, it was quite prone to errors. It was very easy to accidentally to record the transaction in a way that the long text didn't work. So there's a lot of trial and error involved in that. So the new add long text feature will hopefully make your life a little bit easier if you are working with long texts a lot. David briefly mentioned linking of scripts as well. So that's also something that works a lot better in Studio 11, which actually that feature is actually in the run section of the script or Studio 11. So the way that works, let's actually at this point just save our script. So if you have built scripts earlier or linked scripts together using version 10, you probably know that it was a little bit of a hassle to link together multiple transaction scripts, because with version 10 you had to manually add one link at a time. So you would open the first script, add the link to the second file, then open up the second file, and there add the link to the third file, and basically open up each script of the chain, one script at a time, and modify, add the link, do it one by one, open. If you had 10 scripts, you had to open up all 10 scripts one at a time. So instead of that, there's the new chain scripts feature or dialog that allows you to manage the whole entire chain of linked scripts from one location, basically the main script, the first script that you run. So the purpose of this is that for certain processes where you are running multiple SAP transactions in sequence, you can build scripts for each one of those and then link them together to form one long chain of scripts here in Studio 11. MM02 probably not the best example of this, but it could be something like could be related to, for instance, if it's order process, you could have one script that creates a sales order, then another linked script that automatically creates a purchase order based on that, then another linked script that creates a contract, or maybe the contract would be the first script. But anyway, in any case where you have any business case where you have like process where you have multiple things, multiple SAP transactions that you run in sequence, that would be a good candidate for using the chain feature here in Studio 11. So you can then simply add, I'll just pick some random scripts here just to show you how this works. You can then just add them to this dialog and they show up here, and there's no limit. You can add multiple scripts, and then you can change the order of the scripts, how they are, in what order they are processed here using the up and down arrows. You have options for all these scripts, how they are run, what kind of run parameters you are using. So it's a lot more easier and quicker to do this, because you can then build the chain from one location, from one script, without needing to open up every single script one at a time. I'll just delete those here. So that's a really powerful feature if you are working with linked scripts a lot. Now, since we are in the run section here, again, since this is now a more featured spreadsheet here, you can actually add values here, which is something you couldn't do previously. You had to open up the file separately in Excel, add materials and weight values in Excel, and then before you could actually test your script. So when developing scripts, it's quite nice now that you can just directly modify your test values here, then run the script, change values while you are developing and debugging your script. One other feature, well, first of all, we still have the old style validation available here, but in addition to that, we have a new simulation feature in Studio 11, which is, it only applies to certain specific transactions, but it sort of does more than the old regular validation. For instance, financial postings, let's take something like FB50, where the sum of the debit and credit amounts have to match. It has to be a zero-sum posting, and that's something actually the totals are not checked during the regular validation, because that's actually something that happens in SAP. That check happens after you post the document. But with the simulation, we can also perform that check to make sure that the document is appropriate and valid, like all in all for the entire process. So it's useful for certain transactions, like another more, I would say maybe a more advanced form of validation. So that's also something we have here. So then when you're working with your script, you are building it here, you would test it here, make sure everything's working as intended. You would be then, once everything's finalized, you know the script works, you would then proceed to publish it. Another new feature here regarding publishing is that as the developer now, you can specify, you can lock certain things here so that then the runner users are not able to change these. So you can lock that, for instance, each of these things. You can lock that this script is only using sheet 1 and it always has to start from row 2. And if you're using a specific end row, for instance, if I said that we are only allowed to run rows 2 through 10, I could lock these here. So then once I publish this, the runner user who is opening up this template in Excel will not be able to change these. So this gives the developer user more control over the template. They can lock certain things to make sure that the users don't accidentally modify these. Or another example would be the backup feature. If you have ever used this, what this does is when you run the script, it automatically takes a backup, stores the old values on another sheet in the same Excel file. Just takes a backup copy of the existing SAP values before uploading the new values there. So this could be something, if you want to force that this setting is always on for every runner user, just enable it and lock it. Then after publishing, every time the runner user runs the script, it will automatically do this backing up of the data. So this is also a new feature, being able to lock these settings here. So then once the script has been published, I will not go through the publish here. I'll just open up another example here, which is actually a workflow related thing we'll be looking at later in the afternoon. Just to give you an example of a pre-made or fully finalized and published Excel template. This would be a mass upload template for FB50. So the Excel add-in, that has changed a little bit. It's now more embedded into Excel. It's like this Excel ribbon style interface, whereas in the previous version you would have the whole side panel here on the right hand side opening up and actually covering a lot of the spreadsheet itself. So this integrates more nicely into the Excel and is less obtrusive. Other than that, you still have pretty much all the same options here. I think it's just the layout is better. It's easier to see different options here. If you have multiple scripts published, they would appear here in a drop-down menu. You can see some information of the script here and things like that. In this case, I didn't have any settings locked, so I can as the runner user, I could actually modify any of these settings here. So this is more of a Office ribbon style add-in. I guess that pretty much covers all the main points, all the new features and improvements we have here in Studio 11. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now.
I have a question.
I'll probably have to. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
As I said, to everyone, but anyway, if we have, I'm talking now customer master.
Yep.
If we are creating a script for create customer and then creating a script for extend customer, can we link these two together?
Yes.
Okay, because we get the number and then you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't need to ask you.
You fancy context function.
Yep.
It sounded like magic coming from what recording always wrong text now.
And you are not even recording the text, right?
Huh?
And we are not even recording the text.
I mean, exactly.
If you're
how to specify what text field to record.
okay, Timo, when you're doing
Is
the
it from the same or no more rows when adding wrong text, or
I'm not sure.
how does it work?
Firstly, Timo, does the recording mode matter when you're recording the long text?
No, with the new long text upload feature, it's basically done separately from the actual posting or whatever the process is. If, for instance, we had an MM02 script that we did a quick recording with that. So if I added a long text to that, basically, when I run the script, it would first run the MM02 and do the regular thing of updating the weight values. Then after that, it would run this separately, which is actually using a different a remote function call to upload the long text objects, whatever I selected. So basically, you will have a field for each long text here, and also there would be like a separate log column for each long text as well. So it's sort of done separately from the normal recording, like using a BAPI or remote function call. So that's why it doesn't matter what the mode was of the sort of the parent recording.
Okay, thanks.
And that's also why during the recording you don't ever need to go into any of the long text screens, because it's done separately, independently from the actual recording that we did here, for instance. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Follow up. Does that button also work for extracting context? Could you do that?
With transaction?
Yeah.
Okay, can you,
or with read on?
Yeah, okay.
Does that work for long text?
Can you also extract the long text with this long text function, magic?
So this is for I think for reading you still would want to do separate scripts. This is for adding long text, and there's also something. So this is I would say still a little bit of a work in progress. For instance, the language version is not currently fully supported. So for instance, if you wanted to have multiple language versions of long texts, you would need to have separate scripts, because this is the language we have here it picks up whatever language we had as the SAP log-on language. So if I wanted to do this in another language, I would have to have another script using another SAP log-on language. But this is also, I hope, something that will be will be improved in the future to allow us to upload texts with different languages and such. But still, the old methods still work, and they are still there. So even if this doesn't do exactly what you want to do, you can still go about updating and reading long texts in the regular old-fashioned way by recording those.
Okay, just to quickly clarify, is this 11.1 or 11.2 we are looking at?
We're looking at 11.2. So this is the latest version here.
It's not in 11.1.
I think this is in 11.1 as well. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to check which one.
So this is available in 11.1 as well. Yeah.
Okay, Roy, did you have something?
Yeah, this fashion.
The looping functionality.
Yeah.
Yes. Could you open up the? Do you want to do the looping in this, or do you want to open up a? Can you just give us a quick look at the looping again? It might be.
Do you want to see an actual example, or?
I just want to read this.
Oh, the long text in the loop.
Long text.
All right. Okay. Okay. So can you use the long text in the looping?
No, because basically this is when if you do it like this, you add a long text. It's done. You can't really put it inside a loop. It's done separately from the script. So it would first run the script any loops conditions you have there. Once the main script has finished running, then it will separately run these as remote function calls. Add long texts to whatever object you were modifying in SAP.
Okay.
Based on the data volume you can manage with is, for example, we reach the limit volume in the migration or in the cutover phase. And then it was necessary to split the access. So it were really huge loads, and every time I recognized that the 10.7 can handle maybe 4 gigabyte of memory, and it limits the size of the access. Is it able to manage more, or is it an advantage to use the 64-bit version instead of the 32 or so on? That is one thing. And the second question is, as well technical, is there more possibility in SQL queries? So means the sort function. So good question.
Timo, did you get all that?
No, not all of it. You're breaking up a bit here. So this was a performance-related question, if I understood
Yeah,
correctly.
there's two questions. So the first part is performance-related, and okay, we'll start with that.
We had very often problems to handle the data volume. We had to split in the end. That runs very often out of memory.
So you mean when you are dealing with very large data files, tens and thousands of
records? It was not a question of the memory in the form of the system. They had enough memory. So, but I recognize that Winshuttle did not use the kind. So, and then the result was run out of memory very often. So we have to break it down in smaller versions.
Okay, I don't think we, unless Timo, correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't been working with any customers with 11 so far anyway that have been doing these that size loads at the moment. So I don't think we'd have an answer for that.
Yeah, I can't recall seeing those kinds of memory issues yet. But yeah, that's true. We don't have a lot of actual experience from the field dealing with very large files and Studio 11. But I think overall the performance should be better with Studio 11, especially with the new Winshuttle function module. Whether it will help with the memory issues with really large files, I'm not sure.
Out of memory. A really flat file like this.
Yep. Yeah. I think we would have to try that. I don't think we could. Well, perhaps Henrik, Henrik, perhaps you could. We can speak about it later and see if you've got any Winshuttle have got any customers over in the US that have been running that size loads on version 11. We'll see. What was the size? You say it was 4.
Yeah, the load, but it was really a lot of many columns, and then it runs out of memory. So we split it down in separate portions. Yeah, we managed it, but we managed it
by splitting it. Yeah.
By splitting. In so far, so because the videos are done now.
Yeah.
So this is there an improvement inside or not? Theory.
Did you get that, Timo?
No, sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
Between 10.x and 11,
yes.
Has there been any improvement or developments, changes regarding the SQL queries?
SQL query, I'm not sure about that. I would have to check. I'm sorry.
sort function. So otherwise we have to do the next. And then there's a use that they failed. And the user didn't do it, so we embedded a lot of VBA. And
Yep.
did the ugly thing and put it inside Excel. So it would be nice when it is more functionality.
Already in the
more
functionality in the product instead of having to build the. Yeah. Yeah.
What is more comfortable. Yeah. From the source of but I have already
Yes. We will look into it. We will check. Is there any other questions?
Attachment. And the documentation on the support side, there was only a limited amount of transactions that could have attachments. And the limited do we get more transactions now? Or to add attachments?
Compared to version 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Timo, so in version 10 there was obviously a certain amount of certain transactions that you could make attachments with. Has the number of transactions increased with version 11? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to check both lists, cross-reference them. I'm not sure if the number has increased.
Did you have a specific transaction in mind?
Notifications, people notifications.
Okay, we can check into it anyway, and then
That's definitely something we can check. Yeah.
Yeah. Do attachments work with what? VA02?
VA02
and MA22N. Do you know? Do we have a list? I've never seen a list.
I believe those are, yes, in the online documentation, and I think those both are supported. But let's double check those before we guarantee anything. So VA02 and ME22N was it?
I'm writing things down. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
Another question.
Yes.
So it's possible via that button to define number of different texts in the same document.
Yes.
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 Okay. I haven't seen where we define if I have document header or 5 fields.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it should be done. Okay.
Yeah. Any others? Yep. I do, but I'm just trying to think of whether I think we would have to check that. I don't think Dimo's going to know the answer either right now. I think we would need to check that. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Yeah, good question. We're supposed to say no. It could work, but it wouldn't be a good idea because there's functionality that you would build in 11 that then wouldn't work on 10. So you would have to
record everything.
Oh, no, sorry, the scripts work.
Okay.
The version 10 scripts should work on version 11. We always say you should test them first. But so far we haven't had any issues. But going the other way around, if you were recording scripts with version 11, you'd be building things into it which version 10 wouldn't have. So it wouldn't necessarily work that way around. Yeah. You should really, if you're going to start moving to version 11, move all of them. Which brings me on to, actually, the considerations. Because, okay, well, if we start from the beginning, you need to upgrade the function module. Obviously, this is the function module is a lot quicker. As we've said, it's a big improvement. So that's something where we need to start. There are certain steps depending on which version you are on. If you are on 10.7, I think it's quite easy to do. Then we just install the version 11 and we take off the other one. With 10.6 or 5, I think then you have to do it in steps. It shouldn't take a huge amount of time. Sometimes it does, and it depends on your IT as well. You know, we need help from that side too. Then you would have to, we need to reinstall on your machines the new version 11. You can run them both in parallel, so you can do testing, and you don't want to, you know, a company the size, you know, with hundreds of users like Ericsson, you wouldn't want necessarily to do them all over one weekend. That's going to be quite hard. So you can just do, let's start in one module and do that, and then sort of gradually phase it out throughout the company. You should always, as we just said, you need to test and back up the current scripts and your data files. We need to do the proper testing. We've not had any issues so far. Not any big issues. There was a couple of issues with some linked scripts that Carsten from Menepa had, because he had some really complicated linked scripts and he'd done some very clever things. So we had to do a little bit of rework on those, but most scripts should be fine. Timo, have you got anything to add on the considerations when doing an upgrade?
As for the version compatibility, I think there was, if I understood correctly, there was a question related to that earlier. So yeah, all I can say is that all the old scripts will work with the new version, but just remember to keep backup copies until you have actually tested them with version 11, just to make sure that you don't run into any issues, and then find out you no longer have the original version. So
From home access. If you have access-based scripts.
Timo, do you know if there's any difference on access-based scripts?
What do you mean, any difference, like backwards compatibility, or what do you mean?
Yeah, if a script has been developed in 10.x, will it also work in 11?
Yes, they should still work with 11, and I think most of the scripts will be fine. It's just maybe cases where you have, I don't know, maybe more complex scripts, like scripts created with GUI scripting, for instance, might be something that are maybe more prone to compatibility issues. But so far I don't think we've ever seen any scripts that didn't actually work with version 11 that was originally created with version 10. But still, it's better to be safe than sorry. So just make sure you test everything first before you start to take them into production use.
Yeah, it's quite easy for us to say yes, it will work, but it's better for you to actually test it. I mean, especially with Access, you're the only people doing that. So it's very difficult for us to say, yeah. But it would be interesting to find out, sure.
No matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if that functionality it still remain.
Yeah.
In version 11.
Yes. Okay, we're nearly ready for lunch, I think. But before we go for lunch, has anybody got anything to add about, you know, are you all excited about moving on to version 11? Is it something you know you all want to do immediately? Or you're already there. Definitely. I mean, sometimes it does with some companies it takes a bit longer sometimes, and because we have to, you know, get things through with the IT and get permission to install the new function module and check the function module and things like that. And I think this is what's sort of the longest part with many of the customers. Why? I mean, there are a few of you around the table who would have already been on 11 a while ago if we could. But, okay, I don't think there's anything else to add. Okay, should we break for lunch and then?
Thank you for being.
Yes. Oh yes. So everybody was here. Thanks, Timo. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Have a nice lunch.
See you after lunch.
All right. See you.
Bye. Yes.